So when I was a little girl, my dad would be standing next to me and I'd be watching him on TV on the Sergeant Bilko show. And he'd be on the show and standing next to me, and I never saw a difference. I didn't know when I was a little girl what I was or wasn't seeing, but I never saw a difference between my dad on the show and my dad in person. He didn't act. He was just in front of a different set of circumstances that had him behave a different way. So I never knew there was real, R-E-A-L, and real, R-E-E-L, that he was acting something and then he was my dad. What I saw was same. I didn't know that's what I saw for many, many years. But as I grew and I developed into a young woman and a mother and a head of a company, I began to notice that people in the world saw real and fake. And that our culture designed and created people to act as if, to pretend, to go to work to get paid, to make their spouse believe they loved them, to get to the bank, to try to get a loan, instead of offering themselves in a worthy cause. And I began to notice that when people were pretending, they were not successful on any level. When people offered themselves in a worthy cause, when they were invested and connected and committed to something that was going on in front of them that they needed to derive something from, that they popped into a different dimension than our culture takes for granted is real. They popped present. They actually were viscerally connected to what was going on in front of them, and therefore enigmatic and energetic and vibrant and present in a way that we see when someone's rock climbing at the top of a mountain or risking their life in a worthy cause. But our culture, I found, coming to me, this is my 27th year of doing this, coming to me week after month after year, these new people so unsuccessful at things they wanted to be successful at. And I could never figure out why they didn't just take the action that would give them what they wanted. And I began to notice years and years and years ago that if I could get them to get inside of the action they were in, instead of talking about wanting to be there at some future point, when it would all work out, they'd get paid and they'd understand. But instead of understanding trade, standing under that with which they believed in. Instead of understanding trade, the vibrancy of the risk of the activity they were involved in. I began to understand that this weird thing that happened to me as a 3, 4, 5-year-old of losing the right to understand that my father on TV wasn't not real. He was just in a different set of circumstances directly related to what was going on in front of him at the time that had him take a different action that caused him to take actions that were far beyond what people on TV did at the time. Now, my father won more Tonys and Emmys at the time of his death than anyone ever. He was the only man ever to win a Best Actor Emmy for a comedian and Best Actor of the Year in the same year. I believe until Robin Williams many, many years later. I began to be able to understand that if you are connected to what's going on in front of you, you cannot not win. If you're living in a double negative, you actually transcend, you go beyond yourself. When a mother sees her child under the wheel of a car, she doesn't call AAA. She cannot not pick the car up, so she picks the car up. She finds out she's more than she thought she was. I developed 27 years ago these 8 tools that allow us, once we take these steps, these 8 tools are actually 8 steps. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, impossible, invisible. I developed these 8 tools that as you begin to use them, they begin to use you. You go invisible and show up somewhere else. It's like falling down the hole in the ice in Alaska. You fall down that hole and the current takes you. You can't come back up where you took off, but when you come back up, you are simply somewhere else. You can't say how you got there or where you are, but you are connected. And these 8 tools are that process, practice, opportunity that allow you to find yourself vibrantly present, whether it's in front of the camera, in front of a lawyer, in front of a judge, in front of your significant other, that you lose your mind and gain yourself. You evaporate the development of, I'm going to do this to get that, and show up inside of an activity, inside of an action. And these tools are need, loss, action, subtext, substitution, previous circumstance, who am I, an overall driving force. What drives you? To get something or to cause something? What do you need? What's in your way? And what action are you taking to go beyond the obstacle that's in your way? Culturally, I've found we're very reactive people. We see what we need, we think of what's in front of us, why we can't have it, and then we go home and drink, lie, steal, or cheat. Instead of, we see what's in front of us that we need, we know why we can't have it, and then we set out to conquer. Along the way, whatever happens gives us life. You cannot lose because the activity is the win, not the outcome. We lose outcome, we present self. We no longer do this to get that. We do this to receive the activity. And in that activity, a director is filming, your friends are watching, the bank is filling, life is occurring. The bad news is you don't get to live to tell about it. The experience isn't intellectual, so there's no memory. But the good news is the quickening, the activity with which calls you vibrantly into the next activity. In that moment, you're terrified. It causes all the secretions in your brain to start to actually run like a child's does. So it's, if you will, the fountain of youth, because you don't age, because you're not becoming hardened with more thinking, but more activity. And as you risk, the body pulsates differently. It needs new and different kinds of secretions to have activities happen for you that you're just not used to as an adult in our culture. So you actually start to use this vessel the way it was intended, keeping it young and vibrant internally, not just lift weights to look good. It causes you life. You don't get to remember, retain, or repeat, but you get to experience. And in my opinion, there is nothing more profound on our planet than a life worthy lived. And magnetically attracting all those that get to observe you. I've just found that Michelin rating is coming back to California for my son's restaurants. My daughter is an exercise rider at the racetracks, and she's 15 years old. My 24-year-old son is the head chef at my eldest son's sushi bar. My 28-year-old daughter is making straight A's in business school. And this is not a kid we thought would make it to business school. Because if you don't use your cultural understanding of why you can't, and you use your body, being, mind, body, spirit to take an action, an activity out beyond what you deem worthy of success, you actually cannot not win. The game is, are you willing to play? Do you want life more than you want safety? Are you caught up in a worthy cause or thinking about how to get there? Which calls you? Here's your invitation. Step in.